Good evening. It's Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. And it's my pleasure and honor to be speaking with Mr. John J. Jeckovich. How are you doing today, Mr. Jeckovich?
Pretty good, pretty good.
You're looking wonderful. I heard you had a special visitor today.
Oh, yeah, Mary, yeah.
Amber?
Amber, yeah.
Amber Nicole Jeckovich. She just left to go to church. Amber, by the way, is Mr. Jeckovich's great-granddaughters. And when she's in town, she at least visits 4 or 5 times a day. What a wonderful little girl. In her 20s, she's a full-time missionary and an avid surfer. Amber surfed all around the world. You name it, she's been there. And even though she lives on the ocean and she rolls out and she's on the sand, this girl chases the waves. So she's surfed, you name it, she surfed there. She recently came back from Malibu surfing in California, and she was very lucky. She missed she was there for 3 months. She missed the fires. She just went to Martinique, and many times she'll spend the summers in Australia. Their summers are our winters, so it works out. What's that? Works out just fine. So I'm glad you had a wonderful visitor today.
And look at this. This came in today from this couple.
Okay, let me get what just came in. Okay. This just came in from a beautiful couple, handed to Mr. Jeckovich.
Okay.
In Palm Coast. This came in for you today, Mr. Jeckovich.
Look at
What
it.
is
A beautiful couple in Palm Coast.
I'll also put a picture of them right up there right
Put
now.
a picture up there with them.
That's them.
Yeah.
And then what is it?
The compass.
Yeah, it came from Tony and Amia. Tony and Amia Andrade.
From where?
Palm Coast. A very nice couple. They sent that in to you. It's from Tony and Amia Andrade. A very nice couple from Palm Coast with a heart of gold. And they got that for you, Mr. Jeckovich.
Does that look familiar?
What?
Did you ever use one like that?
No, not good. This is really good.
Yeah, I think that was for engineers during World War II. That one was built in 1941. Show them the leather case if you got it.
Oh, yeah.
And that was for engineers, I believe, from World War II. It's a beautiful piece.
That's the case that it goes into.
Oh.
Yeah. 1941.
Now, where's this from?
It was from a beautiful couple
From
in
Palm Coast.
Tony and Amia Andrade. Tony and Amia Andrade. A very nice,
From
loving
Palm Coast.
couple. Palm Coast. And
You gonna send him a thank you?
yeah,
I'll send them a thank you note.
Jen will get up a thank you note for sure. And 1941 that was made.
Yeah, 41 or 42.
And that's a very sophisticated compass that I think the engineers during World War II used.
Here, I'll help you.
And it's heavy too. We'll get it in, Mr.
What did your
Jack.
compass look like? Was it smaller? John?
Huh?
Did you have a compass?
Not that big, no.
Okay. I'm
So-
going to put that on your desk, John.
So that's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Yes, once again, that's a nice souvenir.
Thank
And-
you very much.
And that's from Tony and Amia Andrade. Beautiful.
Thank you from the Andrades.
Yeah, thank you.
Palm
very-
Coast, huh?
Palm
Yeah,
Coast.
Jen will get out a letter for him, Mr. Jeckovich. So that's a nice way to start a day with a nice little gift. Very nice. Mr. Jeckovich was from Company H, the 2nd Battalion of the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry of the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Jeckovich lives by the motto, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. Today is a gift, right, Mr.
Oh, yeah,
Jeckovich? Yeah, young boys and girls out there, it's a short dance around the sun, so enjoy every day. Mr. Jeckovich just said,
What did you do?
no, nothing. Mr. Jeckovich just said last month in one of the readings that he feels like he was 20, and he blinked his eyes and he's 100 years old.
Yeah.
It went by fast.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeckovich was born in 1925, now being 2025. Mr. Jeckovich is knocking on the door of 100. They're knocking on the door of 100, right around the corner. Mr. Jeckovich is in super health. In fact, we call him at times a super soldier. He was shot up by a sniper, beat up, stabbed, trench foot, frostbite,
Lost a hip.
lost a hip, and a bomb. A horrible bomb blew over his head, and it was called a dirty bomb. And that dirty bomb still has shrapnel in his leg, and that's from 80 years ago. They couldn't get it all out. So anytime he'd go to the airport,
That's what they call LAPE.
yeah. Anytime you go to the airport, the alarms would go off. But Mr. Jeckovich just commented on that same dirty bomb blew off the head of his fellow teenage combat soldier, Donald Lape. And Mr. Jeckovich, the only thing that was hanging on Mr. Donald Lape's head was his glasses. Mr. Jeckovich removed them, closed his eyes, took one dog tag number, and wrote a beautiful letter to his mother and father. Keep in mind these were both teenage boys. Mr. Jeckovich, we believe the only reason why he survived these wars is because, one, he was street smart, and unfortunately Donald Lape wasn't street smart, was he?
No.
Donald Lape, Mr. Jeckovich was street smart because he was caring for his mother since he was 11 years old, so he had to make things work. And also the prayers, the rosary prayers of his mother, and a Target Jeckovich would pray every night the rosary for him for a safe return, and the beautiful prayers of a former Roman Catholic nun, Renee, from Paris. What finally happened to Renee? What happened to Renee?
Well, they found out she was getting secrets from the high class German soldiers coming in there, and she'd given it to the Allies, and they found out they killed her.
Yeah. A side note on Renee. Renee was a Roman Catholic nun in the convent. This is when Paris was taken over by the Nazis and controlled by the Nazis. And during this time, she's in the convent. She got one message that her beautiful mother and father, I imagine they were in their early 40s then, were both tortured and killed by the Nazis. And then about a month later, Renee, the nun, got another notice that her two teenage brothers, I imagine they're 14 and 15, once again were tortured and killed by the Nazis. So Renee questioned her faith quite a bit, left the convent, and she went back to Paris, and she set up a beautiful studio, an art studio. And Renee had great talent of painting portraits, right?
Yeah, no, she was drawing them, yeah.
And who would she mostly do portraits of, drawings of?
German high-class generals or whatever.
This would be the top brass of the German army when they were occupying Paris. By the way, Mr. Jeckovich and his division of 1,000 men kicked the Nazis' ass right out of Paris. They kicked their ass right out of Paris. But anyways, the story goes with beautiful Renee, the former nun. She had a beautiful art studio right near the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and she would draw the portraits of many SS and high elected Nazi officials when Paris was occupied by Germans, occupied Paris during those 4 or 5 years. And then what happened, Renee joined the French Revolution, right?
Resistance.
Joined the French resistance, and she would take that information that she gained from the top Nazi brass and send it over to French resistance. But eventually it ended.
Yeah.
How did it end?
Well, they found out about her and took her out and shot her.
Yeah. What a beautiful lady. All these senseless killings for nothing.
Yeah.
An interesting side note, when the Nazis occupied Paris, Hitler, low-life Hitler, wanted to take a tour of the Eiffel Tower. He got to the Eiffel Tower with all his bodyguards, and the Frenchmen that run the Eiffel Tower told Hitler's staff that the elevators are broken. They really weren't, but they told him the elevators were broken. So Hitler and his staff, in order to get on top of the Eiffel Tower, had to walk all those thousands of steps.
Yeah.
He had to walk all those thousands of steps. Mr. Jeckovich, when he joined the service as a teenager, many kids lied about their age, 16, 17. Mr. Jeckovich was a teenager himself, and his division was affectionately called the Diaper Division. Affectionately called the Diaper Division. How come?
They're all young.
Yeah. And then Mr. Jeckovich, in the last battle he was in, was called the Battle of Bulge. And unfortunately, they got surrounded in Bastogne by the largest group of Nazis ever to be released on American soldiers. There were 600,000 of them, and 600,000 Nazis, and 6,000 Panzer tanks. And keep in mind that they came through the Ardennes Forest. No one would ever believe they would come through the Ardennes Forest because the trees are so tight together, and it was the coldest winter record.
19.
30 to 40 below. 30 to 40 below during that year. And so Mr. Jeckovich and his squad was stuck in Bastogne, and he got orders from the top brass that we have to keep Bastogne. If we don't keep Bastogne, it's going to be a great disadvantage for the American GIs. But so they got stuck in the middle, surrounded by all these Nazis, but they couldn't get air support at this time. Mr. Jeckovich's Army and Air Force could not give air support because the weather conditions were so bad. So by the time the paratroopers came in 3 or 4 days later, and Mr. Jeckovich's squad and platoon and division got air support, they had casualties of 97%. 97%. But they held Bastogne. And the reason for this story is this. When he entered the service as a teenager, he was affectionately called the Diaper Division. And I say affectionately, it wasn't sarcastically. But when he left the Battle of Bulge, his new nickname was the Bloody Bastards of Bastogne. They held it tight. They held it tight. 3% left, but they held it. And then by that time, great reinforcements came in from the American troops, and they kicked the asses of the Nazis all the way back to Berlin, which was totally destroyed. And at that time, Hitler knew the jig was up, and he blew his brains out. And he blew his brains out. It was as simple as that. It was as simple as that. Mr. Jeckovich still suffers from frostbite. How is your frostbite today?
No, same thing, same thing.
Yeah. We learned a lot of things from World War II, small things and large things. One of them is, if you're out skiing this year and you get a frostbite, it could be very dangerous. You lose your nose, your limbs, your leg, whatever. Don't run into the lodge and get warm. We learned from World War II, if you get frostbite, make a snowman and rub it on that affected area, and it will get your blood circulating again. We learned many things from World War II, and Mr. Jeckovich, as I say, was born in 1925, and right during the Great Depression, his father was a legal immigrant, came through Ellis Island from Russia. He did everything right. They all moved to Niagara Falls, New York.
Niagara Falls, New York.
3063 Orleans Avenue.
Boy,
And his father was trying to give a better life to Mr. Jeckovich and the boys, and 2 boys and a daughter. And he was actually worked as a slave. He ran 3 jobs, and when he was 43 years old, making cement, he dropped dead. And then tell us how that story went. How did the police come and get you? What happened?
Well, 8 o'clock at night, they knocked on the door and said, your father got hurt, we would take him down to the hospital. Drove me down there, I dropped me off, I asked the nurse where my father was, she said, downstairs.
Okay, first when you asked the nurse, you thought he might have been injured by a sprained wrist or an ankle, and you were to go upstairs.
Yeah.
And then where'd they take you?
Took me down to the morgue.
And what'd you see?
I see my father laid out, his eyes closed, and he had a little cement on his pants, a little on his face, and that was it.
So they asked you to identify the body.
Yeah.
And what else they asked you
And
to do?
go through his pockets.
And you went through his pockets. What did you find?
A little can of Prince Albert, the tissues, they rolled that stuff up, box of struck matches, and
Change?
Keys to the cars, keys to the house.
How about change?
The change had a couple quarters, nickel, and that was it.
So here's where the story that begins. The book that Mr. Jeckovich wrote, how many pages is it?
849.
Is 840 pages, and the title is Their Mother's Sons. Their Mother's Sons. And it's about Mr. Jeckovich taking care of his mother 24/7 from 11 years old to when his mother passed away at 89. An interesting side note was World War II was just beginning, and his two brothers chose to enlist. Now, if you enlist, you get a better position. You can do a lot more things.
No, one of them went to the Coast Guard.
And one of them was doing what?
He got a school for a while, and when they put him in, he was out there teaching recruits how to drive Jeeps.
So if you enlist, you get jobs like that. You stay in the States, and you teach kids how to
Yeah,
drive
he never
Jeeps.
went overseas.
Never seen battle.
Yeah.
This man here, he wanted to spend more time with his mother, so he waited till he got drafted, so he could spend more time caring for his mother. He got drafted, and of course, when you get drafted, you're combat. You're going to the front lines. Did you had a choice between Europe and Pacific, where would you have gone?
Europe.
You want nothing to do with the Pacific?
No.
So now the book has been written 3 decades ago. We just realized a few years ago of all the medals. The list is long that Mr. Jeckovich was received during World War II. It's a long list. I'll just hit on a couple. 2 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart. The list is long. We just got a letter from the government of telling them all the medals that he won during World War II. So
7, I got 7.
7, yeah. And so then the book goes on where he's taking care of his mother from 11 to her death at 89. So this book is a beautiful book, very well written, takes care of all that aspects from that whole part in between. As a boy, getting drafted, working several different jobs, even delivering the Polish newspapers, ushers.
Gina Klasinski.
Yeah, what was it called?
Gina Klasinski.
Yeah. Delivering the Polish newspapers, working in department stores, working sheet metal business, and then he got drafted.
Croisdale, yeah.
Tell us the interesting story about Croisdale's. It's an aluminum sheet metal shop, and you can see how different times are from then to now. You're on the second story putting up gutters or something?
I was up on the roof
Second story?
putting spikes in the roof to keep the spikes put there to break the ice coming off the roof. And the other guy he worked for Croisdale too. He was soldering a gutter up.
And he was on the first floor.
He was on a scaffold.
Okay, on the first floor though, right?
No, he was on a scaffold. He's roof high, but he had a gutter there.
Okay.
And then when I slid off, I went over him.
I see. So you're on the second story of a house, and you fell off the roof.
I slid. It was slippery. I slid off the roof.
You
I
flew
went
off
over
the
his
ice
head.
on the roof. And then what happened?
I slid over. I slid down the roof over his head and fell in the snowplow.
You're lucky there was snow.
And he said, "Get your ass up and get the hell up there."
No kidding. And you had to get, after the 2-story fall, you didn't have any broken bones apparently.
Yeah.
And you had to get back up to the job.
Yeah.
Look how differently it would have been handled today. They would have had 17 lawyers on the case in 4 seconds. Back then they said, hey, get your ass back up on the job. And also, another story similar to this, Mr. Jeckovich was in Paris recovering from many wounds from the war, and he stayed in Paris hospitals for 3 months, and they bandaged him up, and they said, hey, listen, if your finger could squeeze the machine gun trigger, and if you could walk, what are you?
Fit for duty.
Fit for duty. In today's time, if you're in that bad of shape, you're going home with full pensions. And that back then in the war, if you could squeeze that machine gun trigger and you could walk,
Yeah.
you're fit for duty.
Yeah, fit for duty.
Minutes, please. So in general, you had a pretty nice day, though, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
10.
Okay. Okay, you want me to read a few pages, or do you want to read them?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, we'll just read a few pages, because we have a lot of text messages, okay?
Okay, yeah,
You
yeah.
feel up to you feel up to answering any? Do you feel up to it?
Oh, yeah.
This is when Mr. Jeckovich just left for the Army. Now he's in San Antonio. He's in San Antonio, Fort St. Houston. All in all, I enjoyed my short stay at Fort Sam Houston. My only regret is I did not have the emotional or social maturity to enjoy it to the fullest. One day after coming from the drill field and before retreat, I saw a posted shipping list. I was on it. Uh-oh, you're on that list.
Yeah.
Moving out again. It consisted of 30 names, almost our whole barracks. We were to be trucked to an undisclosed destination the following morning. Was all your destinations always top secret?
Oh, yeah.
No one would tell you where you're going.
No.
If you asked, what would they say?
They wouldn't answer.
And all your letters which you sent home were called V-mails. Were all those censored?
They were censored, yeah. Blacked out.
Yeah. Okay. We were to be trucked to an always undisclosed destinations following morning. Everyone again thought it was Lackland. The rumor to be squelched the following day when we arrived at our new destination. That night, while laying in my bunk, I thought about the events that had happened to me in my 3 months in the Army. Was the Army food good?
Huh?
Was the Army food
Irish was good, excellent, yeah.
How I had my first thought of home and how apprehensive I felt about leaving. I was naive enough to think that I'd be indispensable and that they could not do without me. That's your mother and your sister couldn't do without you, you're thinking. I was wrong. They were doing just fine, and according to my last phone conversation with them. What was your mother's phone number?
8866.
I'll be damned. 80 years old. 80 years old, he remembers phone numbers. Everything in the book he wrote out of his head. He doesn't know, he doesn't do Google. He doesn't have a computer. He just wrote all this out of his head. Mr. Jeckovich's mind is like a library. Mr. Jeckovich's mind is like a library. And if you have any questions for him, he wrote this book. How much did you sell the book for?
Then sell it.
The book is not for sale.
Then sell it.
You never sell it, never will sell. It's not about money. Mr. Jeckovich has plenty of money, so it's never going to be about money. It's making life easier for this generation now, making their life easier. So Mr. Jeckovich's mind is like a library. If you want to ask him any questions, text him at 407-366-0000. Any questions, you text Mr. Jeckovich at 407-366-0000. Mr. Jeckovich will answer all text messages, and he'll even call you if you like to discuss things personally about the war or family or things like that. Or as we say at the beautiful island of Hague Point, Defusky Island, South Carolina, we talk a little bit differently in the Carolinas. Text Mr. Jeckovich at 407-366-0000. 407-366-0000.
I gotta go pee. I gotta get somebody.
Okay.
I gotta
We
get
need your help
somebody.
here. Okay. Shut down the stereo. Shut the whole thing down.
Okay.